what if I told you there's a sickness with no germ, no virus, and no toxin, but it's just as contagious as the flu. It's a real illness born in the mind that can make the body physically sick. Today, we're exploring the wild world of mass hysteria.
So let's start with the real-life medical mystery. Picture this, it's December 1997, and hundreds of kids all across Japan are suddenly rushed to the hospital. They were all just watching the same TV show, Pokémon, when, boom, they're hit with this wave of terrifying symptoms. The media even gave it a name, Pokémon Shock. But here's where it gets really strange. When doctors examined these children, they were totally stumped. For almost all of them, every single test came back clean. No poison, no virus. There was no logical physical reason for what was happening. So what on earth was it?
Well, the answer is hiding in the strange world of mass hysteria. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack what it is and how it spreads. We'll look back through history to see its echoes and then see how it's changing in our crazy, connected digital age. And we'll finish with the big question: could this happen to you?
Okay, so let's really break down what happened with that Pokémon episode. Now, a flashing strobe effect in the show did trigger genuine epileptic seizures in a few hundred children. That part was definitely real, but that is not the whole story. The very next day after the news went absolutely wild, an incredible 12,000 more kids reported having symptoms. This second massive wave had no physical trigger at all. It was fueled entirely by anxiety and the sheer power of suggestion.
So this terrifying phenomenon, it's not some one-off fluke. It's actually a recognized condition. And giving it a proper scientific name helps researchers figure out how an illness can spread without a single germ in sight.
The official term is mass psychogenic illness, or MPI, and that keyword is psychogenic, which basically just means it starts in the mind. Think of it like this: you've got real physical symptoms, dizziness, pain, nausea, spreading like wildfire through a group. But the trigger isn't a bug, it's a shared psychological stress. The symptoms feel 100% real, but the cause is completely unexpected.
And MPI isn't just one thing. Researchers have kind of split it into two main types. First, you've got mass anxiety hysteria. That's your Pokémon case. It's like a rapid flash flood of anxiety, usually short-lived, and you see it a lot in kids. Then there's mass motor hysteria. This one involves physical actions like twitching or shaking. It spreads way more slowly, and it can stick around for a very long time.
So how do experts actually know when they're looking at one of these outbreaks? Well, over time, they found a really clear pattern of symptoms and circumstances that are like the classic telltale signs of mass psychogenic illness.
And let me be clear, the physical complaints are very, very real. We're not talking about vague feelings, just look at the data. Headaches are the most common, hitting 2/3 of people. Then you have dizziness, nausea. These are the classic signs of the body having a real physical reaction to extreme psychological stress.
Now, beyond the symptoms, the situation itself has a very distinct fingerprint. First, doctors can't find a physical cause. The outbreak is almost always contained within a tight-knit group. Think a school, a factory, maybe a convent. There's an underlying vibe of super high anxiety. And this is crucial. The illness spreads not through the air, but through line of sight and word of mouth.
And while we call it mass psychogenic illness today, this thing is as old as human society itself. I mean, history is just filled with these bizarre outbreaks that, looking back, are classic cases of MPI. You could see this pattern all through history. In the Middle Ages, they had dancing plagues, where people would literally dance until they collapsed from exhaustion. In the super strict convents of Europe, you had outbreaks of nuns meowing like cats. Yes, meowing. And in a US factory in 1962, workers all got rashes and nausea from a June bug that, well, it never existed.
And this right here is the critical point. These outbreaks are never really random. When researchers dug into that June bug case, they found that the workers who got sick were all under immense strain, working tons of overtime, being the main breadwinner for their families. The phantom bug wasn't the cause, it was just the socially acceptable trigger for an illness that was really rooted in stress.
So that brings us to today. The basic engine of MPI, stress and social contagion, that hasn't changed a bit, but the things we're afraid of, the triggers for these outbreaks, they've evolved right along with us.
Yeah, if you trace the history of this stuff, you can literally watch our collective anxieties shift. Back in medieval times, the big fear was demonic possession. Fast forward to after the 2001 anthrax attacks, and suddenly the fear was biological warfare. There were thousands of false alarms from things like spilled sugar or baby powder. Our fears always shape the form the illness takes.
And now, in the 21st century, a totally new way for this contagion to spread has emerged, one that is faster and wider than anything that came before it: our screens.
This has led scientists to identify a whole new category: mass social media-induced illness, or MSMI. And a really stunning example of this? The recent explosion of Tourette's-like tics among teenage girls. Neurologists were baffled by a huge spike in cases, but they all had one thing in common. The girls were watching popular TikTok influencers who documented their own tics. The social contagion had officially gone digital, triggering very real involuntary motor behaviors all through a screen.
So all of this brings up a really critical question. Is this just something that happens to certain kinds of people? Or, under the right circumstances, could it actually happen to any one of us?
And the research on this is crystal clear. This has nothing to do with a personality flaw or some pre-existing condition. It's a fundamental human reaction. As the leading experts on this say, it is something anyone can experience. Given the right cocktail of stress and social exposure, any one of our brains can translate that emotional distress into real physical symptom.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty unsettling thought. Our brains are fundamentally wired for connection. We're built to trust what we see and to feel what other people feel. But in an age where information and misinformation spreads instantly around the globe, that very wiring can be hijacked. The challenge for all of us, then, is learning how to spot a phantom threat in a world where the line between a real virus and a viral feeling is getting harder and harder to see.